Pat, you're on mute.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Pat Sparrow. I'm the CEO of CODA Australia. I'm joined by my fabulous colleague, Sam Edmonds from the Older Persons Advocacy Network, and we're really pleased to welcome you.
Join the meeting.
We're really pleased to welcome you today to the Aged Care Reform Explained webinar series, and today is the first of three webinars that will be held. So welcome along to you and welcome to Sam. We're really pleased to be doing these again, Sam, aren't we?
We are. There's always so many questions that need to be answered, so it's always good to have these opportunities. Really excited to be joining in today's discussion, and just to give some apologies from Craig, who's on leave, but he will be joining in on the webinars on the final one on the 30th of June.
And that'll be fantastic, but I know we'll have a great time doing this today. I'd like to begin officially by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which we meet today, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders, and to acknowledge any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who join with us today at this discussion.
Join the meeting.
We last ran one of these in October 2025. As I said, today's the first one, and the one that we ran in October was obviously pre the changes that happened on the 1st of November. We knew there were lots of questions in the lead up to that, and I'm sure there are lots of questions now. We're in the cut and thrust of that program being rolled out. I'd like to give a thank you to our support, the support that's come from the Department of Health, Disability and Ageing to enable us to do this, and to highlight that these sessions are just focused on providing accurate information about how the system is working and some of the rules, and answer your questions. It's not an opportunity, it's not us trying to defend any of those decisions or talk about why government made those rules, but we want to make sure that you've got information and are equipped to work in the system. So a little bit of housekeeping. Some of you, when you registered today, and it's great to see so many of you joining us, some of you, when you registered, asked if there would be closed captions available. The answer is yes, there are, but you're the person that's in control of turning them on if you want to have them. If you're looking at a computer, at the bottom of your screen, there should be a button that's labelled CC. You can click on that and they would come on. Or if you can't see that button at the bottom of your screen, have a look on the side. There's sometimes 3 dots where you can click on that and get other buttons, and it should come up as show closed captions. And if you click on that, then you will be able to see them. But Sam, do you want to take us through the day's agenda?
Yep, absolutely. So we've got around 2 hours today, and we'll be focused on answering the questions you have. A lot of the themes that we've chosen are based on the questions you've already submitted during the registration process, and we've pulled out about 5 themes, and we'll structure today around those themes. So we're hoping to have around 15 to 20 minutes on each theme before we move to the next one. And then at the end of those themes, we will be open for other questions that didn't fit into those themes. And as you can see on the agenda, today's themes include recent aged care reform announcements, cost of services, assessment, self-management, inclusions and exclusions, rules around services. Then we'll have that open topics discussion. We'll have a wrap up and then a conclusion. There are 3 ways you can participate today. So around 10% of you have already participated when you submitted one of the 111 questions that we received as part of your registration process. So we've used, as I said, we've used these results to create today's topics because we know these are the topics you want to talk about. The second way you can participate is by putting a question in the chat. We have Latasha, Dee, David and Corey from the CODA and OPAN teams, and they're in the chat. They might answer your question directly, or they may pass it on to Patricia and myself to answer live. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get to all your questions today, but please do keep asking them, as we'll use these questions along with the ones that people asked when registering for the second session to help build themes for our 1st of June webinar. Just look for the chat button down the bottom, which looks like 2 speech bubbles. Sometimes it can be at the top, but just look for that button. Thanks, Pat.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sam. And look, there's one last way that you can participate, and that is by raising your hand. So if you're on a computer, there's a button that will say, please, it will say raise the hand. You can press that and we'll see that you've got a question to ask. That's the only way we'll see it if you do that. If you're on your phone, you can press *9 and then that'll raise your hand. What we're going to do throughout the day today is invite some of you to speak and ask your question directly to Sam and to I, and so that the meeting can hear it. If you do that and we come to you, you'll get a pop-up that asks you to unmute. And you should click on that and then we'll be able to hear you with your question. You'll know that you've been successful in unmuting when you see a line disappear. So if you're muted, you see a line through your microphone, you'll know that you're unmuted when that line disappears. If you're on your phone, you need to press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. After you've asked your question, please remember to put yourself back on mute, just because we need to make sure that we don't have lots of noise and background interference. Now, if you don't do that, don't be offended, but we might actually mute you if we need to after that. And we'll also, at the end of each of the sections where we've asked questions, we'll clear all the hands because people will have questions about a particular topic. So we'll change that over. Now, last thing to say is that today is really focused, and the real reason that we're putting this on is for older people, their families, their carers and friends to ask questions directly about the experiences they're having and the questions they have about the way the system's operating now. It's not really designed for aged care providers or workers or navigators. We know that some aged care workers and providers have registered. We welcome you, but we're just going to ask you to listen really respectfully and make sure that older people and their supporters are the ones who can today ask all of those questions. I hope that's all really clear for everybody, and we'll try and get underway now. And we thought we should start with the announcements that were made recently by government. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is you're going to see me looking down because I've got a series of notes to make sure that we cover all of the information. I think Sam said she's going to be doing the same thing. And you may see me look to the side so I can see questions that are coming in that need to be answered. So please bear with me if you think I'm looking up and down. It's not that I'm, I don't know, playing on my computer. I'm reading notes to make sure that we give you 100% accurate information. So since we wrapped up in October, the government did make an announcement a week or so ago, and we thought it would be a good idea to make sure that you're aware of what that is, because it is actually a good announcement. The main one that was announced last week was around making sure that showering and personal care will be seen and treated as clinical care, which means that individuals don't need to pay a co-contribution. Now, this is something that many of us, particularly CODA and OPAN and many others, argued all the way through that, of course, showering and personal care is clinical care and it should be in clinical care. I think we need to acknowledge that the minister's clearly listened to your experience and to the feedback that you were giving him directly, as well as to CODA and OPAN, and has now corrected that. There's a little bit more detail to come. People are sort of saying exactly when we say personal care. It's good that it's not just showering, it's showering and personal care, but people are saying we need a little bit more detail about what the personal care component looks like. So there might be a little bit more detail either in the budget or still coming from the department that will help us unpack that a little bit more. But Sam, did you want to talk about the increased funding for low means older people that was announced?
Yeah, thanks, Pat, certainly. And I won't be looking down, I'll be looking up. So I do apologise if you see my eyes flicking up and down while we're talking.
It'll be like a table tennis game for people to watch. Who's looking up and who's looking down?
So as Pat said, on the same day as the showering, the government announced they would increase funding for the accommodation supplement, and that helps pay for residents whose income and assets are low means. So CODA and OPAN have been advocating strongly for this, for a system that is fair and equitable and accessible, regardless of the ability to pay. So the financial difference between the accommodation supplement and the amount of money a provider gets for a RAD, or a refundable accommodation deposit, or a DAP, a daily accommodation payment, is one contributing factor for why some people are still in hospital. And the government's announcement will, we hope, close that gap.